I think waiting is probably the hardest part of this recipe. Hey friends, I hope your week is off to a great start. Today I want to share with you my favorite macaroni and cheese recipe. This is a super versatile recipe. You can add as much flavor or add-ins as you want to. I'm keeping it pretty simple with just broccoli and the classic bechamel cheese sauce. But you could definitely jazz this up with fried chicken, grilled chicken, shrimp, peas, carrots. This is a really great base recipe that you can customize to your liking. I'm gonna walk you through it right now. So starting with the onion, I've got one red onion. I need only about half of this. So I am just cutting off the stem end, leaving the root intact. So I'm gonna cut through the root end, making vertical cuts, not going through the root, doing these about 1/4 inch apart. And I'm just going straight up and down and then coming in here to the side and just kind of going right in the middle. And now chopping down for a nice quick dice. So you're looking for about 1/4 cup here. It's not super precise, so half an onion is good. Set this aside. And while we've still got the cutting board and knife dirty, we're just gonna trim off the florets from some broccoli. So again, this doesn't need to be super precise. I like kind of bite-sized pieces, so something like this is a little bit large for me. So I'm just gonna cut that in half, pop it into the colander, and we'll just give it a quick rinse. I've got 5 stalks of broccoli, so if you really like broccoli, use more. I have used probably up to 2 pounds of broccoli in this. It does reach a bit of a tipping point where there's not really enough cheese to hold everything together because of all the broccoli. So, use your judgment. Don't go, too overboard here. So we'll give that a rinse. I've got just a baking dish. This is probably a 9 by 13. That's broiler safe. I've got 1 tablespoon of softened butter. I'm just gonna rub this into the bottom and the sides just to prevent sticking. Change of venue. So we're at the stove now. So we are going to kind of multitask here. I've got a large pot of heavily salted water, and then I've got a smaller saucepan here that we're gonna make the bechamel sauce that we're gonna add the cheese to. One thing to consider is the cook time of your pasta. So I'm using this shortcut pasta. It's called radiator shape. What I liked about it is that it's got all these great grooves. So this is from a New York pasta maker, but the cook time is 5 to 6 minutes. So you need to think this through. The cheese sauce is going to take a total of about 8 minutes once the butter's all melted. Do the math for yourself so that your pasta is finishing up at about the same time as your cheese sauce. That way you're not just kind of sitting around and waiting for things. I also do have my oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. My butter is pretty much melted, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in the onion. So this is about 1/4 cup, maybe a little bit more than that, but we'll just pop that in here. It's gonna sizzle up a little bit. Just gonna cook these for about 2 minutes. You just wanna get a little bit of the raw off them. All right, so the onions have been cooking for exactly 2 minutes. They are slightly translucent now. The butter is sizzling away. Now I've got a 1/4 cup of just all-purpose flour. Now I'm gonna whisk to distribute, but you wanna get everything just stirred around, and we're gonna cook this for an additional 2 minutes. So we're just cooking off that raw flour flavor. It's not gonna look like anything. It shouldn't, just trust in the process here. All right, so the onion and flour and butter mixture has been cooking for 2 minutes. So just so you know what this looks like, it's, just a dry, crumbly mess right now. But that's okay, because now we are going to take our 1 cup of broth. So I'm using an unsalted chicken stock. You could use vegetable broth or whatever you like. Just pour this in, whisking the whole time. And now we're gonna turn the heat up to about medium-high. And I like to whisk this until the lumps are out and everything's evenly incorporated into the stock. This is now a nice and smooth lump-free mixture. So I've got my 2 cups of milk. I'm using 2%. You can use whatever you want here, even almond milk or coconut milk, it doesn't matter. And just whisking the whole time. And I'm gonna set the timer for 6 minutes. You don't need to stir this constantly, but just keep it moving every now and then. All right, so now that the sauce has 5 minutes left, which is the cook time of my pasta, I'm gonna pop the lid off here and we'll get the pasta started. Now we are gonna put the broccoli into this pasta water for the last minute of the cook time. So I'm wanting to cook this on the al dente side, so I wanna cook for 5 minutes, which means after 4 minutes, I'm putting in the broccoli. So follow your package instructions, but the last minute of the cook time is when you're gonna add the broccoli. We're on the final minute of cook time, so I've got my rinsed broccoli into the water. We're really kind of just partially cooking the broccoli here because this is going to get baked off in the oven. Just taking some of the bite off. If after the first time you make this you find you like your broccoli a little bit softer, you can obviously add the broccoli sooner or cook your broccoli ahead of time and then just add it in. So you could roast the broccoli, steam it, microwave it, whatever you want to do. And that is time. So I'm going to drain the pasta. All right, and now heat off of this mixture and we're going to add in the cheese. So I'm cheating and being a little bit lazy. I'm using pre-shredded cheddar cheese. I like to use sharp here because it just has a more intense flavor, so you get more cheesy flavor with the same amount of cheese. So mild cheddar just is a little bit lackluster for this application. So I'm just dumping it all in. We'll just kind of let this hang out. It'll melt from the residual heat in the milk mixture, so you don't really have to work it too hard. So just doing a quick whisk here and the cheese is melting almost immediately. Give this a quick little taste. I think we're good on salt, but I am going to do some black pepper. So I'll just do a few cracks here. Now we're just going to pour the cheese sauce onto the pasta. And then just give this a nice stir to get everything evenly coated here. All right, so now we're just going to pour the pasta into our prepared baking dish. Doesn't it drive you crazy on cooking shows when they don't scrape the pan? I cannot wrap my head around wasting all of this delicious cheese sauce. It's just, I mean, it's a crime. Probably my #1 pet peeve is unscraped pans on cooking shows. I'm getting every last drop because it's just the right thing to do. Just kind of evenly disperse everything in here. You don't want to have all the broccoli kind of congregated to one area, so toss it around a bit to get a nice even distribution. Okay, and I'm liking how that looks. And here I've got my panko parm and all of my seasonings, so I'm just going to give those a little mix around. If you don't have panko, you could just use regular style breadcrumbs or even pre-seasoned Italian style breadcrumbs. So, I mean, whatever you have on hand is fine. And then you just want to get an even coating all over the top. It should be enough to get a nice generous layer. I like to kind of get a thin coat on first and then go back and plus it up. You don't want any bare spots because that'll just be kind of some sad bites if you don't have any breadcrumb. So now I'm just going to pop this in the oven, 375, 25 minutes or so. I'm just going to keep an eye on it till the top is nice and brown and the cheese is really bubbly. It's not hot yet, right? So the mac and cheese baked for a total of about 23 minutes, and then I had it under the broiler for 5 minutes just to get it nice and crispy on the top. Just keep an eye on it while it's under the broiler. You definitely don't want to burn the breadcrumbs. This has been cooling for 5 minutes. It's really important that you let this cool down a little bit because the cheese is so bubbly and hot, it will just completely destroy your mouth if you try to eat this right away. I think waiting is probably the hardest part of this recipe. The crunch of the breadcrumbs as I was cutting through is just insane, and this is what it looks like. So I mean, you can see it's steaming hot, but really nice crispy breadcrumbs on here. The pasta is beautiful and just really tender, so it's important to take this just to al dente during the boiling process because it does bake and finish cooking in the oven. So let's see. Super cheesy, nice and gooey. The breadcrumbs are really well seasoned. Super hot though still. Get a little broccoli on here. It is so good. I love this recipe so much. I really hope you give this recipe a try. It's really easy, super comforting, and very customizable. So if you do try this, please tag me in your post on Instagram. I would love to see how this worked out for you. And if you liked this recipe video, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to do more like this. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.